This is the Second Chance at Health podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brad Hassig. Come join me as we remove confusion from the hottest health topics by discussing the latest research, along with what we've seen with thousands of our patients and amongst our community, family, friends, and people all over the nation and world. Let's dig in. Hey, this is Dr. Brad Hassig with the Second Chance at Health podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk to you about what you can do to make your migraines split. I love Psalm 147, verse 3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." We've seen over 2 decades in practice, thousands and thousands of patients with migraines. Migraines can be a very complicated thing. It tends to respond quite well to what we do in our chiropractic office, but it is one of the most complicated issues that we deal with. So migraines, in general, migraines affect about 1 in 5 people. Tend to suffer with those in the United States, and it tends to affect women much more than it does men. Now, the severity, the frequency, some of the different symptoms that people have with their migraines can vary. It's all over the board. Some people have light sensitivity. Some people get aura. Some people get nausea. There can be vertigo. There can be all different types of things that can go with it. And then add to that the types of treatments that we see. Some people respond great to chiropractic alone. We oftentimes see people, by the time they're getting to our office, they've seen all kinds of their family doctor, an internist, a neurologist, a headache specialist, sleep specialist. They've been on all different cocktails of medications to varying degrees of success. And for a lot of people, they're not even looking for a fix. They're just looking for improvement. They're looking for some relief. So what I'm going to try and do in this episode is to try and give you some different things, explain to you what the problem is, what certain things that can kind of cause migraines, and then some solutions that you can do at home to try and help yourself. So there's 3 different things we kind of break down with our patients to tell people that can trigger really migraines. There's physical, chemical, and emotional things. And I'd really put that physical, emotional, chemical. Okay, so when we talk about physical, what can cause that? Posture, things that we're doing, in the office, working, sports, activities, all those different types of things can cause physical types. Then you can have injuries. What we deal with a lot in our office is subluxations, misalignments in the spine that are causing nerve irritation. So those are the physical types of things. Obviously, you think an auto accident, somebody that's had whiplash. Yes, those people tend to have more neck issues and can tend to have migraines. But a lot of times we see, like I said, you see it much more frequently in women. You'll see at the onset of menses. So you start to see even girls, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. That's when we'll talk to somebody in history. They might be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it is. And a lot of times it started at puberty. And so there's definitely can be a hormonal component to that as well. Then when you start to look at the emotional component, obviously stress, anxiety, depression, all those things can tend to trigger migraines. Like I said, make the severity and the frequency of those worse. Then when we get into the chemical, you look at things like diet. There definitely are food triggers for many people. Look at chemicals that are in our drinking water, that are in our food, added antibiotics, pesticides, all that stuff that we all know about. So there's many different chemical types of things that can happen. Then obviously you add in things like alcohol and sugar and some of those things. So there's definitely a chemical component to that as well. So what are some of the solutions? You've probably Googled things, you've looked at other YouTube videos, listened to podcasts, ask every doctor, ask your friend, your girlfriend, what have you, about different solutions, and you see all kinds of things. Well, I can tell you some of the things that have been successful with our patients, also in terms of reading the research. There's I've got a couple of articles that I'm going to have that I'll put at the bottom of the description here in this video. So if we start first, the physical solutions that you can have with this, exercise. Exercise is great. A lot of times people don't feel like it. Maybe in the midst of a full-blown migraine, you're probably not going to feel like going to exercise. You're going to want to, many people, they're going to want to be in a dark room with no sound. So I understand that. But some of this is going to be proactive in terms of doing exercise is great. It's going to increase blood flow, circulation, and it's going to help decrease stress levels. So that's something that's going to be good. Then you can look at things like stretching and massage, stretching the neck, going through different neck stretches. Love massage therapy. It's a great complement. I'm going to kind of tie some of the stuff with PT into that too. It's mostly, muscle type of work. They're trying to decrease muscle tension into that. All those things are great. I love those. We'll throw in with that something you can do at home. I think one of the best things that you can do is ice packs. If you've got, headaches coming from the back, even a lot of them are going to come up around. They're going to radiate. Put that at kind of at the base of your neck. And that tends to really help. There's different types. People will get some sinus pressure things. Some people will put along their forehead as well. I'm obviously a huge fan of ice, not a big fan of heat, but there are times that I'll have some people, they'll put a warm towel across their head. You're finding what works in the midst of a full-blown migraine. Still think ice is the way to go. I do like that vasoconstriction that you're going to have from that. It helps decrease inflammation. Those are things that are help. Especially, like I said, I really love it. Your neck and the base of your skull. That's really going to help with inflammation and radiation with that. Then obviously we're going to get into chiropractic. There are numerous studies that show the efficacy of chiropractic. We are going to check, and I can speak specifically for the activator technique that we do. We're always going to look at the head, neck, and jaw, or your TMJ. They work as a motor unit. So it could be any one or a combination of those three things. And oftentimes it is. It's a combination of all three things. We're going to check those and see if there's misalignments or subluxations that are causing irritation on the nerves from the upper neck, the base of your head, even some of the bones when you're getting into some of the cranial bones, and then definitely getting into the TMJ. All of those things, there is going to be nerve and blood supply going to the head. They can all trigger migraines. If we can get everything realigned, or improve the alignment, we're going to see a reduction in the severity and frequency for sure. Does it correct every single one so people never have them? I'm not going to say that. I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen frequently. It's always amazing to me. Somebody in a history will ask them, how long have you had this? And they'll say, the 30 years. And well, how frequently do you get these, daily, or even if it's once a week? And I would say, you've been having this daily or once a week for 30 years? Yeah, that sounds miserable. Yeah, it is, doc. And then as they're improving and they're getting better, there's always that day that we ask and we say, hey, how have your migraines been doing? Well, I haven't had one. And they look at me almost like I'm crazy. Like, what are you talking about, migraines? And I'm like, the thing that you had daily or weekly for 30 years. And it's amazing how that they forget about it. And I think your body, just when you've been suffering like that, your body doesn't want to remember that type of thing. But that's always something I found amusing, how quickly people forget situations like that have been affecting their life consistently for decades, and how quickly they forget about those things. So then we're going to get into, that was the physical solutions to migraines. We'll get into the emotional ones, things that you can work with, some of that, the anxiety, depression things, meditation. It's something you've heard on my other podcast. Go back, talk about that. I've done more in the second one here that I'm going to talk about with breathing techniques. Go back and listen to my podcast on using different breathing techniques. And that is an amazing thing, just to quickly kind of break that cycle. And oftentimes you can, like I said, quickly, people will notice with migraines, they're going to have triggers and they can feel them starting to come on. It's almost like a cold. It's like, hey, It's a warning sign, check engine. And if people will address, what's going on before it's a full-blown migraine, obviously, oftentimes they don't have that whole problem. So if you can head it off when you have that, do some breathing exercises, do some meditation just to calm down, get outside, listen to the sounds of nature. That's, God's got it figured out. He has there are healing things. Some people are into getting outside, bare feet, in the grass, grounding, whatever your thing is. But I love just getting outside. Getting outside really kind of helps to, it has a calming effect on your body. And like I said, can help break that trigger. Then the last one that I'm going to get into tends to, other than obviously the chiropractic, I think that is probably the number one solution that I'm aware of. But when we get into the chemical, now you're going to start to talk about dietary things. Obviously, the cleaner water you can drink, the better filtered water. I don't ever drink tap water. I grew up on well water. I loved that. Loved my Northern Indiana well water. But I don't drink, unfiltered tap water. I guess when I'm brushing my teeth is about the only other time a whole house filtration system would be wonderful. But so you're trying to decrease those chemicals as much as you can. When we start to look at diet now, the number one thing is to decrease sugar. Sugar is inflammatory to the body. It's also going to have effects on insulin and blood sugar, and that can have effects on migraines. That can trigger migraines as well. The next thing is going to be gluten. Gluten is inflammatory. It's just for many people. You've got to remember, I've had these conversations and I've asked people, why is it so different from when I was a kid? I was growing up in the 80s. We're not getting the same grains that we were getting in the 80s. There are so many more the pesticides, herbicides, the chemicals that are in it. It just is. That's a fact. There's many research studies on this, and those grains tend to absorb them a lot more. Not to mention when you're getting into genetically modified foods, your body's not familiar with how to absorb these things, how to break these things down. So watch gluten. Then the other one is to watch low fat. I won't say all dairy because I still love, with doing carnivore, I love to add heavy cream, whipping cream, double cream. I love to add that to my coffee, but watch low fat. Low fat milk, trash. I wouldn't drink it. This stuff, especially just commercial stuff that you're getting. If you really, really want to drink milk, make friends with the farmer and go get raw milk. I know a lot of places they don't say to do that, but hey, I guess that's, I'll whisper that to you. But just really watch the low fat stuff because there's so many sugars involved in that, the way that it's processed. Many people have lactose issues and it absolutely can be inflammatory. Then here's a big one that we're going to get into, and I'm going to link a study to this, is you've got to watch your omega-6s, your linoleic oils. And so a lot of these are going to be seed oils. This is going to be things like vegetable oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, corn oil, but all your different types of seed oils are really high in omega-6s, linoleic acid. That is opposed to where you're going to see animal fats or the omega-3s are really more, and there's a ratio that they should be in, but you really should strive to get more of your omega-3s, and much less the omega-6s are inflammatory. And there was a terrific study that, like I said, I'll link for you, that shows people suffering from migraines improved as they decreased their omega-6s. That linoleic acid, and got a lot of that inflammation out of their system. So not saying that you have to, do your best to avoid those things. If you're going to use oils, I'd prefer olive oil. I love to use, animal fats, use real butter. Butter's great. It's flipped, I think, back once again to, when they had things like margarine, all these fake, it's basically plastic. look at your natural things. Your butter, beef tallow is another terrific thing. Those have natural omega-3s. In that study, they weren't necessarily, I'm not saying you have to go out and buy fish oils. Obviously, I think a quality fish oil is going to be one of your best sources of DHA and EPA, your omega-3s. But, if you're not going to be eating fish on a regular basis, the specific types of cold water fish that, cod, tuna, different things, good quality fishes on a regular basis. You also get these from meat, grass-fed beef. Once again, I'm a little partial with carnivore. I think that's about the best thing most natural thing that you can eat. You're getting so many of your vitamins and minerals in there. So those give you some different suggestions for things that can cause migraines or can trigger migraines, and then some different solutions. If you've got any questions, please feel free to contact our office at hassigchiropractic.com or leave comments. I love to hear. I've gotten a lot of how I determine which topics I'm going to discuss in my episodes are based on conversations I'm having with patients, some of the most common current pressing things that I see, and then also the comments. I've had several of my episodes have come directly from people leaving comments for me or messaging me and saying, "Hey, Dr. Brad, I love your podcast. Would you talk about this?" So I want this to be a community-driven thing. I'm doing this to help. I'm giving you tidbits and nuggets of information, clinical pearls of things that I've seen, in 23 years of practice. So if there's anything you'd love to have me talk about, please feel free to let me know. Give these examples here a try and let me know how it goes. Take care.